I opened the letter and froze. My brother's name was on it, claiming he had rights to my $3.8 million seaside villa. The man I trusted my whole life, the one I grew up laughing with, smiling with, now wanted to take everything I worked for. I stared at the paper, my hands shaking, my heart pounding, and thought, how could he betray me like this? Before we dive in, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss how the story unfolds. My name is Sharia. I'm 30, and I never imagined I'd be in a position where I'd have to defend something I earned, against my own blood. Growing up, my brother Daniel was my shadow. We shared secrets, dreams, and late-night talks about what our lives would look like. He was charming, always protective, the kind of brother you brag about to your friends. I never thought that same charm could mask something so dark. I had worked my entire adult life to build what I have now. Every late night, every risk, every lonely decision led to my little slice of paradise, a $3.8 million villa perched right on the ocean, where the waves hit the rocks and the wind carried a salty freedom. This house wasn't just a building. It was the manifestation of my independence, my hard work, and my dream. And I loved it. So when Daniel called me one Sunday afternoon, his voice warm and familiar, I didn't suspect a thing. He said he wanted to visit, to see the villa, and maybe talk about family memories. I smiled, told him to come by. Part of me was genuinely excited, maybe naive, maybe hopeful that some part of our childhood connection was still real. The first hint of betrayal came in small, almost unnoticeable ways. He asked questions that felt too pointed, probing about legal documents, ownership papers, things I thought were private. I laughed it off at first, thinking he was just curious, maybe even teasing. But when he casually mentioned, "It's crazy to think I could have a claim here, right?" my stomach twisted. I froze, the joke feeling far too real. Days later, the bomb dropped. I received a formal legal notice. Daniel was filing a claim, asserting he had a right to the villa because of some technical loophole he had dug up in our family estate. Every word of that notice hit like a punch. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. This was my home, my sanctuary. The place where I'd celebrated birthdays, written my career plans on the terrace at sunrise, and envisioned a life that I controlled. And now he wanted it all, like it was nothing. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed, the papers spread out in front of me, crying and shaking. I thought about every late-night call, every time I lent him money, every time I covered for him without complaint. I had always trusted him. I had always believed family meant loyalty. How could someone who shared my blood, my memories, my life, betray me so deeply? The anger mixed with disbelief, the grief with an almost physical ache. But in that moment of despair, something shifted. I realized that giving in to him, letting him walk in and take what I built, would only prove one thing, that he could manipulate and betray with no consequences. And I couldn't let that happen. Not this time. I wiped my tears, my hands still trembling, and I made a silent vow. I would not beg, I would not cry in front of him, and I would not give him a single inch without a fight. I would wait. I would plan. And when the moment was right, my revenge would be precise, cold, and utterly satisfying. I spent the next few weeks putting on a calm, normal face whenever he visited, all the while researching, gathering advice, quietly building my strategy. Every smile I gave him, every laugh was a mask. Inside I was a storm. The villa felt smaller, tighter, like it was holding its breath with me, waiting for the inevitable confrontation. The betrayal had cut deep, but it had also ignited something I hadn't felt in years, a fierce, determined fire. And I knew one thing for certain. Daniel had no idea how patient I could be, how carefully I could plan, or how devastating my silence could become. I didn't speak of it to anyone. Not friends, not family. The villa was mine, and my plan was mine alone. And as I watched him stroll through the rooms I had decorated with love, smiling and unaware, a single thought ran through my mind. He will regret underestimating me. He has no idea what's coming. The tide was turning, and I was ready to strike, but first, I had to wait, let him expose himself completely. Patience would be my weapon, and when the time came, he wouldn't just lose the villa. He would understand, in every gut-wrenching, humiliating way, that betrayal carries a price. I kept busy acting normal, hosting small gatherings, laughing, pretending everything was fine. But inside, I was mapping out every conversation, every legal loophole, every step that would lead to my ultimate victory. And then, one afternoon, he said something that almost made me laugh through the anger. He hinted, ever so casually, that he thought I wouldn't notice the details in the paperwork. That moment, that was the confirmation I needed. He was cocky, he was careless, and he was about to make the biggest mistake of his life. The calm before the storm was almost unbearable. I could feel it, a kind of quiet tension that wrapped around the villa like the ocean mist outside. My heart pounded in anticipation, but this time it wasn't fear. It was control. I was no longer the sister who trusted blindly. I was the woman who would turn betrayal into justice, and I would do it perfectly. The first act of revenge hadn't even begun, but the game was already in motion, and Daniel had no clue that every smile, every polite nod, every casual chat was lulling him deeper into the trap I had set. My silence was deafening, my patience relentless, and my plan absolutely flawless. Now, the stage was set. The villa stood as both my fortress and my chessboard, and I was ready to make my move. The day finally came when Daniel's arrogance became his undoing. He strutted into my villa, confidence radiating like he already owned it, as if the legal papers he had filed were a ticket to victory. I greeted him with my usual warm smile, poured him a drink, and nodded politely as he rambled on about how easy this claim would be. Every word he said, every smug grin, only fueled the fire inside me. I let him talk, I let him reveal his plans, and I listened, carefully. Every careless detail, every overconfident assumption, was catalogued in my mind. I was patient because I knew that justice wasn't just about winning, it was about letting him sink into the trap entirely on his own. Then came the moment I had been waiting for. He mentioned an old family loophole, a so-called technicality in the estate that he believed gave him a right to the villa. He didn't realize that I had spent weeks researching, consulting with lawyers, and uncovering every angle to protect myself. When he handed me a copy of the claim, I smiled, nodded, and said softly, "Funny, I've already taken care of that." His brow furrowed, confusion and suspicion mixing as I calmly explained how every one of his points had been invalidated, every potential opening closed, and every move he had made turned against him. I could see the shock spreading across his face as the weight of reality sank in. I watched him struggle, the confident mask slipping, his pride crumbling piece by piece. There was no yelling, no drama, just the quiet, devastating satisfaction of watching someone who underestimated me finally realize the truth. Daniel had always believed I was naive, that I would cower, that I would beg, but I hadn't. I had been meticulous, deliberate, and unshakable. The villa, my dream, my sanctuary, remained untouched, untouchable, and more importantly, entirely mine. It wasn't just the legal victory that satisfied me. It was the deeper, personal triumph. This was more than a home. This was a statement. A declaration that betrayal carries a cost, and that underestimating someone who has been hurt can be the gravest mistake of all. I felt a sense of calm, a profound release, as if the weight of his betrayal had finally been lifted. The villa seemed to breathe with me, the ocean waves outside mirroring my inner peace, the wind whispering that I had won not just the house, but the battle for respect and dignity. I could have gloated. I could have been vindictive in a loud, obvious way. But revenge, I realized, doesn't need to be loud. True revenge is quiet, precise, and complete. Daniel left that day with his plans crushed, his pride shattered, and no room to argue. And as the door closed behind him, I let myself finally exhale, letting the tension dissolve into the salty air of the seaside, knowing that I had handled everything with the control and strength I had cultivated over the past weeks. In the days that followed, life returned to a new kind of normal. I walked through the villa, each room a reminder of not just what I had built, but who I had become. I was no longer the sister who blindly trusted, the woman who let her heart make her vulnerable. I was stronger, wiser, and unshakable. I understood that betrayal doesn't just hurt, it transforms. It can break you, or it can forge you into something fiercer, something unstoppable. And I had chosen the latter. Looking back, I realized that this entire ordeal was a test of patience, resilience, and intelligence. Daniel had underestimated me because he only saw the sister he once knew, the one who smiled too easily, who forgave too quickly. But I had grown, and my silence had been my power. Justice had been served, not through anger or rash decisions, but through careful, quiet strategy and the knowledge that I would never let anyone take what I earned without earning it themselves. I finally understood that revenge isn't just about getting back what was taken. It's about reclaiming yourself, proving to the world and to yourself that betrayal will not define you. Standing on the terrace of my villa, watching the waves crash against the rocks, I felt a surge of triumph and serenity all at once. The villa wasn't just a home anymore. It was a monument to my perseverance, my intelligence, and my unbreakable spirit. To anyone watching this, remember, betrayal may come from the people closest to you, but patience, strategy, and inner strength can turn the tables in ways no one expects. Never underestimate yourself, and never underestimate the quiet power of waiting for the perfect moment. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. More shocking, emotional, and true stories of betrayal and revenge are coming, and you won't want to miss a single one.